Hi, everyone. A warm welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Okay, so yeah, I think it's a very small group today. I think what a great place to start would be just to learn a little bit about where you're calling from. And I have also asked you in the chat if you could share a weather update from wherever you are. The news from London is that suddenly winter has arrived. So Lizzie and I are both shivering here in London. I don't think either of our heating is as good as it should be. But yeah, hello. Okay, Guatemala. So yeah, sunny. I can imagine. Hi, Susmit. Nice to see you. Good afternoon. Nepal, hi. Okay, so Susmit, you're from Nepal. I imagine it's very warm where you are. How's the weather there? Great, Port is Elizabeth. Beautiful. Okay, hi, Lizette. All right, so we still have a very mixed kind of geographic representation today. Um, oh, Bangkok, a bit chilly. I didn't expect that, but very good. Okay, so we're just waiting for a few more people to come. But for now, I think I will just do a little bit of housekeeping. So first of all, this session is for 1 hour, and we will leave around 15 minutes at the end of the session for a Q&A. Please try to put your questions in the Q&A functionality at the bottom or at the top of your screens, and leave the chat for reflections. Maybe you would like to share your experience, then obviously we really want to read it and share if you can. If you feel comfortable, then please do. For those of you who have just joined us for the very first time, this is a webinar series called I Teach PTE. It is for teachers, it is for educators around the world who prepare students for the Pearson Test of English portfolio. As I hope you know, we have PT Academic, PT Core, PT Home, but this webinar is specifically focused around teaching academic English, so the PT Academic test. Okay. We are coming to the end of the series because our academic, our webinar years, January to December. We have a webinar, another webinar scheduled for November. We've got one for December, but I'll talk more about that at the end of the session. Okay, so I think we will start with just a very quick introduction. So first, I'll go first, Lizzie. So my name is Magda, as you can see on the screen. I'm based in London, as you know now, and I work for Pearson. I've been in the role about 1.5 years as Global Pearson Test of English Teacher Training Manager. So essentially, I work with our wonderful PTE trainer, master trainers, training leads in our key markets. Some of them you may know. And we create and deliver courses for teachers, of course, this webinar series, amongst other initiatives and resources as well for PT teachers and PT test takers as well. So hello everyone who's just recently joined, India, Philippines, hi Mohammed, hi Kshengalin, lovely to have you with us. I'll hand over to Lizzie now for a short intro as well. Over to you.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for welcoming me today, and hi to everyone across the world. So my name is Lizzie, and I work as the head of English language assessment at the University of Law. So this is a university which is based in the UK, and we have campuses in London, but also lots of other locations across the UK. And although it's University of Law, we actually do a lot of other types of courses, such as business and science courses like psychology. I've been in the role for about almost 8 years now, and my role, we work with the applicants that are coming to the university. We make sure that their level of English language is kind of where it needs to be for study, and we'll work with providers like Pearson to make sure our entry requirements reflect the Pearson academic scores. And then once our applicants become students, we work closely with the library skills and the tutors to make sure that our international students are supported and are thriving in the academic environment, especially with their English language, academic English language skills.
Fantastic. Okay, so look, everyone, I think you know from those who attend the webinar series monthly that we normally have Pearson employees delivering these webinars. So we're super, super thrilled to have Lizzie here today with us from the University of Law. And I think this is a really great opportunity for you folks to ask questions and learn a little bit more about where your students do end up, once they've passed their PTE and got the required score for their desired university. So a little bit of context before I introduce our objectives for the session. At Pearson, our mission statement is we help people realize the life they imagine through learning, and that is never truer than of the kind of context we work in as Pearson Test of English teachers. Why? Because there is a reason why your students are taking the PTE test. It may be for migration to Canada, it may be for study purposes in the UK. And I certainly ask my students immediately, that's the first question I ask, is why are you taking the test? Yeah, what is your ambition? What is your goal? What are you striving for? Because I do think it's super powerful and motivating, and I wonder if you agree. I hope so, and please tell me if you do in the chat, that it's very rewarding to be an exam preparation teacher because you help students realize their dreams, essentially. The second question I ask is, what score do you need to get into your desired university? Because obviously that is really, really important, and that will determine how long the course is, or what you cover in terms of where they need to be and where they are at right now. So we wanted to invite Lizzie to give her experiences and to kind of help you understand what it's like to study as an international student in the UK. Okay, have any of you studied in a UK university? Let us know in the chat if you have. The first objective is exactly that, and Lizzie will talk to that. The second objective, which is Lizzie will also talk to, is we want to help you kind of better prepare your students for studying in the UK. And we want to make some connections between what you do in the PT preparation classroom that can also set your students up for success at university. Okay, and then Lizzie will hand over to me for the final section, and I'm going to introduce what I think is a very useful resource for your teaching and also for your students to use when preparing for the PT academic test. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Lizzie, and I'll see you all in a bit. Okay.
Thank you, Magda. So just a little bit of context for you all. As I said, I work at the University of Law, but I had a little look at our kind of student cohort, the profile, and those who came to study with us through using Pearson PTE Academic to meet their entry requirements. And 90% of those using Pearson PTE Academic applied for our postgraduate business courses. So this tells you, I mean, it's the popularity of this type of course at our university, and I think generally in the UK, these are very popular courses right now. So yeah, this is where we see most of our Pearson applicants come to study with us for. And we just as I'm going to talk to you guys about how what you're doing in the classroom is really also that preparation for their next step. When they're at our university, we're also thinking about that next step, which is employability, you know, what they're wanting to go on to do. And we work closely with them to ensure they are given and get those opportunities. We score really highly for teaching. And the reason I'm flagging this as well is because the approach to teaching within our university is something that I want to talk to and discuss how this can be replicated in the classrooms, again, about providing the toolkit to set the students up for academic success. So Magda, next slide, please. Thank you. So in order to succeed at UK universities, but I would say no doubt all universities, students need to have a really strong set of academic study skills, as well as that required level of academic English language. So in your classroom, you're obviously teaching them all the tools and equipping them to succeed with the Pearson test of English. And they will have that set of skills and some academic skills, and it's kind of that kind of combination of that toolkit that can lead to academic success. Although the expectation we have is that language is not a barrier to their learning, the reality is that the vast majority of our students, domestic and international students, they're likely to need some support in some areas of academic study skills or academic English language skills when they arrive with us. So as an institution, and this is generally true for the majority of the sector, if not all of it, there is so much support available for our domestic and international, the whole student cohort. For study skills, for example, we cover everything from, you know, time management and how to avoid and deal with procrastination, which I'm sure we're all guilty of, to things like revision and exam techniques and note taking. And I mean, things like note taking, this is obviously something that you guys will be teaching in the classroom to prepare them for the exam. Like, this is such a useful skill for exams, but also as they go on to progress at university. So seeing these links between what you guys are doing now to what they need in the future is just really useful to reinforce in the classroom. We offer our students things like you know, lots of online resources that they can access anytime, to live webinars such as this, where it might be a drop-in session. There's events that are face-to-face on our campuses. They can book small group sessions and also one-to-one appointments. Now, specifically for our international students, the support that they need may be a little different, especially in that first semester when they're also adjusting to potentially quite a different culture or a different approach to learning than they've previously had. And there is some tailored resources that we also provide, such as self-access study skills specifically for academic study. We also have built a custom AI tool. She's an AI assistant where you can put your writing in, and she will give very tailored feedback about which areas of your academic writing could be reviewed or looked at. So oral skills are always practiced. So there's lots of opportunity to practice oral skills and build confidence in that. Basically, as an institution, we're aware that the continuation of learning and improving your academic English language skills is very likely when you arrive. So it's not that you achieve your PTE score, you go to university and you stop improving. You're always building that toolkit. My team work very closely with other teams. So there's the library learning skills team, there's English language assessment team where we kind of self-refer them for diagnostic tests, and this will work with the academic tutors. And it's kind of this combination of support that helps the student, but the emphasis is on the student to self-study and be autonomous in their learning as well. And it's this combination that leads to academic success. Next slide, please, Magda. So how can you guys help? This is where I'll come down to kind of how it links to what you guys are doing. So the most prepared students that we see are those who have strong academic skills, as I've talked about, and they're also autonomous learners. So how this can help you in the classroom is students who obviously can do the work in the classroom, they're attentive and they listen, but they're also learning skills that they can take away and use themselves. So what I'm going to look at today is you're teaching academic English. So this is to achieve high scores in the Pearson test of English, but how that is taught, for example, teaching academic English through a skill. So teaching academic English through listening, writing, speaking, or reading, that is really useful for them as they move on to their next stage in their education. So I'm going to talk today about teaching academic English through reading. Okay, so I think that the reason I chose this is because there is always a lot of reading at university. And for teachers like yourselves, I think reading, it's a really rich source for lessons, and it can become the focus for lots of different things. So, you know, such as collocations, which I know Magda will come to, it's really nice to use as a way to just have a 5-minute focus on collocations that are found, or it can be another language focus, as well as the general comprehension reading. But all these things, such as identifying collocations in reading, they're then crucial when it comes to the speaking and the writing, and it's being a higher level user in academic English. So what's the most important thing to use, I think, when thinking about reading or teaching academic English through reading is using authentic texts. So using authentic text is really important because this is what they will be dealing with when they come to university. Sometimes they can seem, particularly academic texts, can seem very long and dry. You know, it doesn't have to be a full text. A short part of it or an excerpt is really good, but so long as it's not oversimplified, I think authenticity is really key. And anyone can put in the chat like any authentic text that they like to use or where they source their text from. That's really nice to share, you know, where to find good authentic texts that are relevant to your students. I think, as Magda said at the start, you know, asking them what subjects they're interested in applying for, what they're using their Pearson test of English results for, that can help inform you on the topics of the types of texts that would be interesting for them to use in the classroom. So I think the best way to think about it is kind of stages, which is sort of the visual you see in front of you. And behind these stages lie the kind of transferable skills that are really useful for your students at university in the UK. So the first stage would be sort of a pre-teach stage where it's sort of activating their interest and perhaps increasing their understanding of key concepts or words. And the central part is that the engaging part where they're looking at the comprehension, what does the reading mean, but also focusing on that language awareness where there's a wealth of different things we can focus on, and I will come to some activity ideas shortly. But it's where that crossover happens, where they improve that academic English, that level is generally improving, and they can utilise these skills to succeed in the Pearson test of English and then further after in their studies. Afterwards, it's always good to have a kind of a task, some kind of output, some practice to practice what they have learned. I think flagging to your students throughout this which skills are transferable after for like university life is always really good. So although the short-term goal is to get the score they need in PTE academic, why they're doing it, it can give more motivation for that learning because they know that they're going to use this afterwards. It's not just a short-term goal, it's longer term that they will use it. Next slide, please, Magda. So with the pre-reading stage, so just that first stage, this is one of the most transferable skills, I think, for university, and which I'll come back to later. But the pre-reading really puts the emphasis on teaching the skills that the students will be able to use when they're at university. But whilst they're with you, it's kind of guiding them into understanding what they need to practice. So it may be that they are predicting, so they have the text and they're predicting what they think it's about using the content, using, sorry, the titles, the subtitles. Are there any visuals? I think really useful is having some kind of knowledge list. So this is an ongoing log, if you like, that the student will maintain themselves of phrases and words that they know, what they want to know, what they have learned. So this then becomes a material that they can reuse, review, and also evidence what they have learned across the time in the class. And it's something that can be referred back to as well. I mean, perhaps they're more visual, and that kind of the vocabulary mind map is something that's really appeals to them. Using guided questions is always good, kind of asking the students, is this a problem solution text, cause and effect? How do we know? Which sections are we looking at? Perhaps pre-teaching some of the concepts that are needed to understand the text. This is a skill that they will need at university. So taking that time to build some foundation confidence at this point is really key. Next slide, please, Magda. So into the kind of the main part of a reading lesson would be looking at that comprehension, understanding what the text is about, but focusing down on language awareness. And there are so many kind of small activities that can come from this, depending what is needed to be focused on. Perhaps it depends which part of the exam you're focusing on as well to look at. But it could be that, you know, you're highlighting certain phrases that show hedging or boosting. Perhaps it's a race to highlight words such as perhaps, maybe, or the boosters like definitely, certainly, and then thinking about how those words can be used within the context of perhaps the writing part of the Pearson exam, or generally in their own writing to improve their level. It's that range that really scores highly and serves them well at university as well. Perhaps a jigsaw reading, so that they're looking at identifying topic sentences. And again, identifying these structures becomes part of them understanding how then they can use it later on themselves. Tracing pronoun references is something that's always good, kind of noticing how a writer has avoided repetition. So avoiding repetition within their speaking and writing is then something themselves that they can use. Or perhaps it's about looking at the register. You know, it's very much, we're discussing academic English, which is what is used at university. They'll be studying to take Pearson Test of English Academic, for example, but playing with that register is always quite engaging for students. So perhaps taking something that is not academic, such as fairy tales, making it formal. You know, which language can they use to change, and looking at, say, collocations and which academic collocations can be changed for formal and informal is often quite fun to get them to play with the language, to remind them that how it can be manipulated. Next slide, please. Thank you. So after the reading, kind of the bit of the practice section or the output, it can really vary, depend on whether this happens in the classroom or at home, or is it a 5-minute part, or is it longer? It can be quite flexible. So a simple 1-sentence summary task, it sounds very simple and very quick, but actually the skills needed to do that is a really useful one and transferable to university, because the ability to summarize a longer text in 1 sentence is a real skill, so that you're capturing the meaning. And it is something that we ask our students to do when they have read case studies at home and come in and to just summarize it quickly. What is the point of it? Perhaps a 100-word summary would be more appropriate for a longer text. What are the key concepts? Something else that we see a lot that needs practice from our international cohort is more critical thinking skills. So evaluating what they've read, which piece of evidence was strongest to support the writer's argument and why. That's a really useful one. And I think just reminding them like why this is transferable or how they would use it at university level it's just a really good reminder to motivate them for why this skill is important. Looking at argument building, again, this is something that is a transferable skill. So getting them to compare two different writers discussing the same subject is good. Perhaps writing a paragraph that's modeled on the text, trying to copy the style of the writer, trying to use some of that vocabulary from the beginning that they've wanted to know, trying to use that then in a summary, or perhaps making it more interactive and a discussion. So they're explaining part of a text that they've read to their partner who's read something different. So explaining a paragraph to each other and then discussing to compare, or perhaps debating if it's a kind of agree, disagree, if it's about a certain topic. And always bearing in mind there may be more advanced learners in the group. So challenging them is always a good idea. So giving them kind of looking at what is the author's stance on this, what is their viewpoint, what critical vocabulary have they used for arguing, kind of pushing that higher level vocabulary as well. And I think always reminding them to kind of record it, log it, what are you learning? So it's something that they can refer back to later. Next slide, please, Magda. So to summarize what I've just spoken about and then to link it a bit more broadly, a simple lesson template for teaching academic English through reading is on the left here. So, we've got that prepare stage where we're engaging them, they're activating, they're developing a curiosity about what they're about to read. Then there's the actual reading, digesting, understanding, and afterwards the practice, the production, I suppose exploring together and trial and error of what they have learned. I think what's important to remind them and to bring in is assessing the process. So going back to the vocabulary log at the start and moving the phrases around into, okay, I've learned that now, I know what it means, or annotating academic features on a different text that they haven't looked at together in class. Reading widely is always a really important part of consolidation, and perhaps writing something at home by themselves, like something to assess how they felt their learning was. So it's more about assessing their learning than what they learned in class. I think it's important to remember here that teaching the self-study skills encourages learner autonomy, and that will serve them really well at university and beyond the test. Next slide, please, Magda. So how does this prepare them? What I've explained here is kind of a staged approach to a reading lesson, whether it's looking at academic English, and can focus on anything that you want that would pull through to the exam preparation. At university, we follow a model that's called prepare, engage, consolidate. So we use these stages as a way to teach the students. So to give a specific example, if you are studying a postgraduate business course in business analytics, before every session that you have with the tutor, there will be a prepare stage. You'll be given some reading, some essential reading to do, for example, perhaps case studies. You'll be sent videos of something to watch, to take in. You may be invited to go to a lecture where the tutor will be familiarizing the students with the key concepts around the subject. So that's where the students need to have those self-study tools of, right, looking up, it could be very simple, of looking up key vocabulary so they understand it before the session. It could also be getting them to start to think about this particular writer or academic's approach to something, Then in the engage stage, that is in the lesson. That is when they're expected to contribute and critically evaluate. They'll be discussing things. We want to have built their confidence that they are able to prepare enough so that they can engage effectively in the classroom. And then to consolidate, that is that output, that's the post lesson one, where they're given usually a short task to do. And it's very much about self-study and learner autonomy, where they will check their own learning. So they will perhaps complete another reading and write a few sentences about it just to summarize it. So by kind of emulating or mirroring these stages in your classrooms, it means that they adapt more confidently to kind of university study as well. And yeah, so it's about, what's important is obviously focusing on the level of your students' academic English, because that will serve them very well to succeed in the Pearson test of English. But by ensuring they have strong study skills and they are curious students who can work autonomously, it means they can continue their language learning alongside their studies, which will lead to academic success. And that's the ultimate goal, I think. So if you have any specific questions about anything I've said or university life in general, I will happily try and answer them. And there's the Q&A box, but I'll hand over to Magda for the third objective.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lizzie. So interesting to learn about where you work, about where our students end up, essentially, and the type of work that you do with them to support them on what must be, a very challenging start to their studies, studying in a second or third or fourth language sometimes for your students. So as Lizzie said, do pop your questions in the chat or your reflections. I think that would be really insightful and helpful for us to understand what you're thinking. But, there are a lot of parallels, Lizzie, because, often, in the PTE preparation classroom, we, of course, engage our students, right? We teach the lessons. Often they are around a specific question type, but we also do skill development. So if the question type tests listening and speaking, for example, then we would work on developing those sub-skills, and then the language as well, to kind of grow their grammar, grow their vocabulary and pronunciation, etc. What perhaps we don't do very much of is actually the prepare stage, and perhaps we could do more in kind of setting students some activities ahead of the class. Perhaps it's to watch, a test format video on one of our screens, or on their own kind of tablets or their iPhones before they come into the class, just to have like that generic understanding of the question types before we start teaching it. So anyway, lots of ideas, lots of reflection. Thank you very much. And I will now move on. So we're talking about academic English, and we are obviously here to support you prepare your students for the test and also for their studies. So what I wanted to do today is to call out specifically a document that I think you might find useful in your classes, and that is the PTE Academic Collocation List. So first of all, can you just pop in the chat, what is a collocation? You can give me an example of a collocation if you'd like in English, but can you just throw some ideas into the chat first of all? Okay, so what I'm seeing here from the examples is that you understand that a collocation is essentially words that co-occur together, okay? Fast food is a very good one from Amrit. I want to call that out specifically. Fast is an adjective, food is an noun. So we're looking here at an adjective noun collocation. You can't say speedy food or quick food. The only right way, the natural way to say it in English is fast food. So well done. I think, Amrit, that is an excellent example. Thank you for sharing. All right, so let's have a look. For those teachers who are experienced, you will have seen this academic collocation list before. The difference now is that A, it's in the new branding, okay, and B, we have made the table, the list of collocations, more user-friendly, I think. And and C, there is a list of activities that you can do in your PTE classes to support students' collocation practice and learning. So I'm going to just drop the link in the chat for you. What would be really good is while I'm talking, that you actually go and explore this web page. And what you'll see when you click into it, and can you just give me a quick yes if the link is working and you can see the web page? What you will essentially see is a web page with two documents, a PDF. Okay, so a Word document that we've converted to PDF, and an Excel. Why? Because some people prefer copying and pasting from different formats. Okay, so you choose which one you want to download, but essentially they are the same thing. And this is a list of high frequency academic collocations to support speaking, writing, reading, and listening in English. And you'll see in the second image the actual table itself, and you'll see the numbers on the left hand side, okay, because there is a total number of collocations in the list. Mohammed, try again, okay? Can you just try one more time, perhaps from a different browser? And I will also resend the link for you here. Okay, try this one, see if that's any better. So on the left, you've got the numbers, and then on the right, in the white column, you've got a list of the collocations themselves. So compound 1, okay, and then compound 2. And you will see that under academic, there are lots of compound 2s because there are so many collocations with the adjective academic, okay? Now, I want to really be clear on the fact that this list is not exhaustive, okay? There are more collocations in English than here, but this is a really good starter for 10. Okay, so let's just review what collocations are. Not all of your entries were collocations. So I want to make that clear. Fast food was a good example, but others, have a look, okay? Collocations are words that commonly occur together or co-occur and that are a natural and essential part of English. We have 5 examples here, but there are more. We've got adjectives plus nouns, verb plus nouns, nouns plus nouns, verbs plus adverbs, adverbs plus adjectives. Fast food, you will see that it was number 1. Yeah, so perfect. And in the academic collocation list, you will see the compound 1, compound 2, and next to it in brackets, you will see the part of speech. It doesn't say adjective, it gives the abbreviation, so ADJ. It doesn't say noun, it says open bracket N close brackets. So if you're wondering what are the words after the words, they are actually parts of speech, okay? VPP isn't on this list, but that's verb past participle. Okay, so again, very kind of standard English language teacher terminology. Academic achievement, we've already discussed it. Academic is the compound 1, achievement compound 2, but there are actually multiple compound 2s that collocate with academic. So go and have a look and find those for yourself. We know that students need to learn language in context, so giving them an example sentence is really important. Those example sentences can't be found in the academic collocation list, but all you would do then is go to the dictionary, or, like I did, use a large language model to get those examples for you. For example, her academic achievement was recognized with a scholarship to study abroad. Good, Mohammed. Glad that it's working for you now. That's really great. Okay. The academic collocation list was created by Pearson. We're super proud of it. And it contains the most frequent and pedagogically relevant lexical collocations in written academic English. And I said this before, it is not an exhaustive list, okay? But there are 2,469 collocations in total. That's quite a number, okay? Now, there are three key kind of objectives, I guess, from where I'm sitting. Number one, it will help learners to recognize, okay, in reading and listening, collocations, and it will also help them to use collocations in their speaking and writing, which is really important for the PTE test. Number two, and I've mentioned this before, it supports learners in producing more accurate and fluent written English. So we know that to get a good PTE score, you need to show a range of vocabulary, you need to be accurate in your choice of vocabulary. And I hope that this list will help students choose more accurately the words that go together naturally in English. And number three, we can really target vocabulary teaching, right? So rather than just teaching isolated words like fast and food, we can teach them together, fast food, as a collocation, okay? So let's have a look at some ideas for how to use this in practice. And one teacher had really good and interesting feedback. It might be a bit overwhelming to give this resource to students. I agree. I think, first of all, it's super useful for teachers and as a reference for teachers. You may not want to send this to your students. It might be overwhelming, but you are likely to want to lift and shift some collocations and transfer them and give them to your students, but perhaps not the whole document, okay? And I'd love to hear your thoughts, obviously, from your perspective on this. So let's have a look at classroom activity idea one. There are more ideas in the document, but I don't have time to go through all of them. But for those of you who are new to the Pearson Test of English, there are three sections to the test. The first part is speaking and writing, the second reading, the third listening. And in the reading section, we have 5 different question types in PT Academic. 2 of those are called fill in the blanks. One of them is fill in the blanks drop down. So you choose the right word from a drop down list. And the second is drag and drop, which you see on your screen here, where you literally take a word, you drag it, and then you drop it into the blank. Not always, but often the word that is missing, that fills the blank or is the perfect match from the drop-down list, is part of a collocation. Okay, not always, but often. So you'll see here, and it's really small for me, so I'm going to have to look up, but theoretical knowledge is a collocation. Okay, analytical skills is a collocation. We've got communication skills, transferable skills. I mean, there are many collocations with the word skills. So again, not every blank is a collocation, but a lot of blanks are. And so what the student can do, or what the teacher can encourage the student to do, is, of course, do the reading around the blanks, okay? Read the options really carefully, okay? And have a go, okay? Let them try. and fill it in. If they're struggling, well, they could go to the academic collocation list to see if these words are in the list. They may not be, right? Because I mentioned that this is not an exhaustive list. Maybe they can add to their list and grow the list themselves. And if not, then perhaps they can look at the word theoretical and then go to the list and see what other compounds, what other collocates match. So I'm not saying that every word that they will encounter is in the list, but certainly they can use it to help them answer the tasks. And if not, to build their vocabulary around the answer in the task. Okay, so rather than analytical skills, maybe they go and find the word skills and see what other words co-occur. Okay, so what do you think about that? Any thoughts, any ideas, any suggestions? Do you agree that fill in the blanks is lends itself to learning academic collocations? Let's have a look at classroom activity idea 2, and this is for speaking and writing question types, okay? So I've got an example from the speaking and writing section. Describe image is a speaking question type, and here you can see a line graph that students or test takers need to describe, okay? So they provide an overview of what the line graph is depicting and then really go into the detail, calling out kind of the significant data. What I did as a teacher is I looked at the line graph and I thought, okay, I'd like my students to use some collocations in their response, okay, to really get them a high vocabulary, to get them a high score. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look in the academic collocation list. I'm going to grab some useful collocations that lend themselves to this line graph. I've chosen significant growth and reach a peak. I think they are relevant and useful for this particular question. And I'm going to ask students to use those two collocations in their description and their response. Some students may use them perfectly, others may have trouble. They may mispronounce them, so I need to do some work on pronunciation. Some of them may use the wrong preposition. Okay. Some students may say reach peak, may forget the A in the middle, which is obviously inaccurate. So although I want to praise them, of course, for using collocations and kind of experimenting, I must also give them some delayed error correction to set them up for success, and maybe then give them another second go at describing the line graph to see that improvement from the first and second go. Okay, so look, there are a couple of ideas. There are some more in the academic list. So what I would really encourage you to do is just to download it, review it. It's actually a great resource for your own English learning as well. And yes, please do share feedback if and when you do use it in the classroom. Okay, so that is me, a whistle-stop tour of the PTE academic collocation list. So I'll just give you a few key takeaways before we go to Q&A. First of all, as Lizzie mentioned, the University of Law offers extensive support for international learners, but success is of course easier when learners arrive with strong academic and study skills. All right, so don't worry, your students will be fully supported, and she called out some really interesting, I think, initiatives, and students can sign up to this if they feel that they need to. So great to see, Lizzie, that you have such a great support program for them. And number two, PTE teachers can make a real difference, I think, in helping learners to build the academic and self-study skills or study skills, supporting their confidence and independence in UK studies. Yeah, so we're doing it already. We're teaching note taking, okay, to help with summarized group discussion, I'm sure. Note taking, Lizzie mentioned, is a really important skill. Time management, Lizzie mentioned that at the beginning. We, of course, are helping students with time management in relation to actually completing the test in time, but also in terms of preparation outside of class and how to best use the time before before the exam. So we're probably already, unconsciously in some ways preparing our students for tertiary study, but I feel like I would like to bring this conversation into our consciousness and get us thinking and reflecting on what we're doing and what we can do more of to set them up for their goals, for their ambitions, so they can really succeed and put their best selves forward. And then finally, I showed you the rebranded version of the academic collocation list. Has got a few changes to it, so it's now available to download. So please tell your teachers, your colleagues about it, share the link with them, and get them using it in the classroom. Okay, so that's it from me. I can see everyone. Sorry, Alamin, no, but you can message us in the Q&A if it's private. Okay, or you can send a message in the chat. But please do come forward and share your opinion. But orally, I'm afraid not. This is a webinar, not a meeting. Just final things for me while Alamin messages. So next steps. In about 24 hours, you are going to get an email from Zoom asking you to complete a short survey. It's the same questions we ask every month, but we really want to get your feedback on this webinar. I'd like you then to submit it. You will get a link to download your certificate, so please do that. And then, of course, do sign up for the next webinar, which is next Thursday, actually. So a week today, we have a live Q&A session. Alamin, again, it's not, you can't ask the questions orally. Again, you have to submit them in the Q&A, but do come and join us if you think of a question tomorrow and you want it answered. So ask me anything, insights and advice from PT experts on the 27th of November at 10 a.m. Local UK time, which is Greenwich Mean Time. So a Q&A to finish now. I can't see any questions in the chat. I think the main issue was the link wasn't working for some, but now it is, which is really good. And Lizzie, I think I'm going to stop sharing. Great. And then perhaps we can tackle some questions. Okay, so Mutlu, thank you. I really appreciate that. Please do share what your biggest takeaways are in the feedback survey or now. We do have 7 minutes. Lizzie, I think I'll ask a question if that's okay with you. So you showed a diagram of kind of like a really good approach to teaching reading, and there was the kind of the pre-teach stage. I really loved that kind of Venn diagram, and then right on the other side there was the output. Okay, and what you gave as an example was if you are teaching them some academic skills or some kind of vocabulary, you consolidate that work. But what about, is there an opportunity instead of doing that to perhaps have a discussion on what they've read? To what extent is that output on vocab or on language work, or giving them an opportunity to like respond to the text, give their opinions or insights or
Yeah.
Conversation generating.
I think in the university setting, it would be the latter. It would be about that kind of critical thinking, that evaluating. But in order to do that, you want to have that confidence in the language skills. So I think in the classrooms, kind of with our participants, I think a balance, like maybe starting off with that practice of the language focus or using some of those new collocations that they've identified, and then moving it on to kind of more of a wider discussion where it's just more about critiquing the article, or perhaps bringing in their own opinions about it. So yeah, I think it could work both ways, especially in terms of what the focus of the lesson is and applicable to the preparation for the exam, but also the level of the learners and how engaged they are with the article. Sometimes you want them to focus on practicing some language focus, but they're very interested in debating the broader topic. So I think going
Let
with
them
what
do
they
that.
want, let them do
Yeah.
that. Exactly. Yes, yes.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, going with the flow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think for me again, I just want to reiterate, sometimes, I really dive into the question type, it's Tuesday, this is what we're covering, but really like fitting into the syllabus that prepare stage, because we talk about the flipped classroom, and I think it's such a really helpful approach, particularly if students are not repeat PTE test takers, they are new to the test. I think it is useful for them to digest information about what the question type is or what that section of the test involves in their own time, right? Because sometimes in class, you know, we go as fast as like the best student, and weaker students fall behind. So
Yeah.
I do think that prepare stage is critical, and something that I'm going to take away and perhaps think about a little bit more. So
Mhm.
thank you, Lizzie. No questions. Wow, this is really surprising. And Mohammed, thank you. I think a fruitful session. I think that's a beautiful collocation, isn't it, Lizzie? I think that's really lovely. It's very positive. It's accurate, and well done, Mohammed. I wonder if you did that intentionally, or you just did it by accident, but well done. Okay, so I think that's it from me. I think we've got one, no new messages. Um, so thank you very much for those of you who attend every month, and also for those who are new today. I just want to say thank you for all the great work that you're doing in preparing your students for the Pearson Test of English. If you are a teacher that's just starting on their journey to teach PTE, then of course the best place to go is our website and just really read everything on that website, because there's so much information about the test format, how scoring works, frequently asked questions. The second thing that you need to do is go to our PT for Teachers web pages, and there are courses. There's the academic collocation list, which you've just seen, but there's also a section on teacher courses, and there is a free self-directed course for PT academic teachers and PT core teachers. It's modular. You can go at your own pace, and I think it's a great way to familiarize yourself with the test. For more experienced teachers, we have in-person courses, both online and face-to-face in some regions, not all. And the best way to find out more is to contact your local PTE sales representative. So hopefully you're in touch with them already. Actually, most of our webinar participants have attended one of our courses, which is how they know about the series. So yeah. All right, so everyone, that's it for me. We've got 1 minute left. See you next Thursday, I hope, for the live Q&A. So do join up and submit your questions ahead of time. But for now, thank you so much, Lizzie. It's been such a pleasure to have you. Really insightful. I wish you lots of luck with all of your future students that you have enrolling in your programs. And thank you to all of you as well. Kshengalin, thank you so much for today. Really, it's a pleasure, and I'll see you next month, hopefully.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great evening. Bye,
You too.
everyone.
Bye.